Hi, I'm Harman. I just completed a dual degree in Biochemical Engineering and Biotechnology from IIT Delhi, and now I'll be pursuing a PhD in Bioengineering at Imperial College London.
How did you how is your undergrad experience in your department like?
So, uh, my undergrad was a lot of fun. I really thoroughly enjoyed my undergrad at IIT Delhi. Uh, so, my first exposure to biotech was in my second year of college. That's when our departmental courses started. I enjoyed the courses a little bit, but what really excited me about this field was my first research internship, which I took up after my second year during the summer vacations. I went for uh, a research internship at Caltech in the bioengineering field as well. And that's where I first realized that I really enjoyed research and this might be something that I wish to pursue. So since I had a 5 year course, I had 3 summers for uh, taking up such opportunities. So the next summer, I took another research internship at Harvard University, which was also a systems biology based uh, research project. I really enjoyed that as well. And I had almost made up my mind that I wanted to pursue research full time. But before making a decision, I wanted to see what a corporate setup job would feel like. So the next summer, I did an internship at Abinbev, where I worked as a data analyst. But due to COVID, that was a virtual internship, and it was a very good experience overall. But I think it helped me decide that I enjoyed research more. And after my master's thesis project, I think that decision became somewhat final, and hence I applied for a PhD next. So I think
Just going
my
with,
undergrad, sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say that going with what you said, how like a lot of students have this doubt that how do they decide between whether they go for a job or research. So you said that you tried out a job, an intern in industry in your fourth year summer. So like after that,
Mhm.
how did you like decide? Uh, do you want to go for research or industry? And like, do you also like suggest that one should try out both before making a call?
I think uh, it is a very good idea to use your summers to decide to try out different things and find out what you might like. For in my case, I only had two uh, brief ideas of what I wanted to try out. So since I already enjoyed research, I and also I had the luxury of uh, since it was a 5 year course, I had another additional year to explore different things.
Mhm.
Uh, but I would recommend that if you have the option, do try out different things during your internship because it's easier to do it before entering the real world after leaving your undergrad.
So like also how did you come to the conclusion that you wanted to go over research over industry?
I think for me, it was what I found more rewarding and also what I enjoyed doing more. Uh, I think ultimately, in both scenarios, it's about uh, what skills you'll be like the skills that you'll be using, especially if it's a computational project, might eventually be somewhat similar in both the cases. But for me, it was an important deciding factor that I found using these skills towards scientific exploration is what I found more rewarding, and that's
Mhm.
what I like. It's completely my personal opinion, but I think for me that was how I based my decision.
Okay, it's like you like both of them, but uh, skills wise, it was kind of similar, but
Mhm.
you decided that the skills when used for like uh, used in like solving science questions, you found that more interesting over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, so moving onwards, like after you decided that you wanted to go for research, so can you explain like what the basic structure of preparation should be? When should one start preparing for preparing their grad school applications? And What's a basic
Um,
step-by-step process?
I think the first step is exploring what is out there and looking at all of the possible options that are available to you. And I think it's the earlier that you start, the better. I did not start very early. I started in June, July of the year that I was applying. So the first step would be to look at the different universities which are out there, look at their programs that you are interested in, look at the admission pages of the specific courses that you're interested in, and also look at the different professors who are uh, associated with that course. Look at what their uh, research is about, what are their lab groups like, and uh, you'll find certain places where you find multiple professors whose research you are interested in, and there are some places for where, like, even some top ranking universities for me, for example, for me, I did not have too many professors who I found uh, my research interest in alignment with. So I think your first step would be to shortlist, to go through everything and to shortlist places where you would like to apply.
So did you decide that you wanted to apply um, in bioengineering from beforehand, or like
I
how
think
what's the course of your undergrad called? It's biological science and engineering.
so. My undergrad is in biochemical engineering and
Okay.
biotechnology, and so I explored different options in different places. Like at some places, I applied to bioengineering courses. At some places, I take applied to biomedical engineering. But that was also based on what courses are offered at different places,
Mhm.
right? Um, and
By courses, do you
depending,
mean like what people in those departments are
no, no,
doing?
no. Like some universities only offer a biomedical
Okay.
engineering, and some places don't have a bioengineering.
Hmm.
Uh, and it is also in like, this is a tip that I got from one of the professors that I worked under. He said that if you are not sure what you want to do next after your PhD, like if you're not sure whether you want to go deep into research or would you also uh, like if you're not sure if you want to stick to academia and would want to consider taking an industry option, then the name of your PhD course might also be a factor, because if it's a very niche course, then it's possible that just based on the name of your course, even if your work is relevant, people might think that it is very different from what work is required. So take these points into consideration and come up with a list of places that you wish to apply to. Once that's done, then the next steps are pretty much straightforward. You'll have to work on your SOP. You'll have to prepare your CV. Then you'll have to give GRE and TOEFL based on where you're applying to. Especially after COVID, most places are not even asking for a GRE exam anymore. So make sure to check the requirements of the courses that you're applying to beforehand, so that you know what all to prepare for.
Mhm.
And then
So
that's just applying. Yeah.
yeah, I'll just start with a timeline. Like you said that you started looking for universities around June, July, the summer
Mhm.
you were applying. And when did you start preparing for GRE, or when should one start usually start
So
preparing?
I gave my GRE in the end of September. I gave both GRE and TOEFL like on like at one day's gap,
Mhm.
because so the major component that you need to prepare for a GRE is the verbal part. So I had to so I was already working on the English part of the exam. So I thought I could do both of these simultaneously.
Mhm.
So I started preparing for uh, GRE vaguely in mid to late August, but I really started preparing in early September. So I
Okay.
think 1 month.
I just add here that like GRE has three sections. Like one is
Mhm.
the uh, verbal part, which you mentioned about the English one. The next one is the quantitative, uh, which is like basic reasoning. So both of this, I think,
Mhm.
carry one. 60, 160 marks each,
Mm-hmm.
and then or 170. And then there's this writing section, which is so there are these three sections. So yeah, so you said for verbal you started preparing earlier, especially the vocabulary part. Do you have any suggestions for the quantitative and the writing part?
Uh, for the quantitative part, I did not devote that much time, to be honest. I mostly just did the free sample exams available for at different sites to
Mhm.
just practice what that would be like. And for me, I found it sufficient
Do you
because
have
it's
any websites on the top of your head where this free exams are available?
not at the moment.
Okay,
But
so from what I remember, one is the official website where there are, I
Mhm.
think, 2 or 3 free exams available, and
Actually,
then
if
there's
you
also
sign
quiz.
up for when you sign up for your GRE exam, you get some free tests with that.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, on
yeah.
their official website. So
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah.
very comparable to what the actual exam looks like. So you
Right.
could like first give a diagnostic test,
Mhm.
and then probably access for yourself what you need to work on. For I think most of
Mhm.
us, it's the vocabulary part, especially in India,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
quantitative part is, I think, uh, quite simple comparatively. But again, that could vary person to person, and giving a diagnostic test is a good idea. Yeah. Do you have anything to say for the writing part?
For the writing part, um, I think you can also look at some of the videos about the writing part available on YouTube. I think there's
Mhm.
a set of videos by Maghosh as well, uh, which just give you. So there are basically 2 or 3 types of essays that are asked in the writing section, and they just give you pointers on like how to design your essay, like uh, how to structure it well, and that is helpful. I mean, mostly you can come up with the content of the essay on the spot, but if you have a brief structure in your head before you're attempting it, then it really helps
Mhm.
because you only get a limited time to write those essays. So uh, if you just go through those videos, it helps.
Okay. What about TOEFL?
For TOEFL, I did not prepare separately much because it's sort of an easier version of the
Yeah,
verbal and the essay section for
yeah. Those were
GRE.
my
So I
exact
just gave
words. Yeah.
so I just gave it the next day, in fact.
Mhm. Yeah. So like I think most of us would agree that if you are prepared well for GRE, then TOEFL is like a easier version of that.
Mhm.
Also,
The
one
only thing
important.
different is that you have a listening section and a speaking section as well in TOEFL.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Another question that a lot of people ask is that for which universities is GRE required, for which is TOEFL required? Do they need to give both? And is there a minimum cutoff for both exams?
So for TOEFL, I think most places ask for it because it's the since English is not the official language for India, we have to give that uh, because we have to show that we clear the English criteria. But I'm not sure what the cutoff is, but you'll easily find that on the admission pages of the course, and it's just a qualifying exam. It doesn't affect your application as such. Um, but for the GRE, another interesting thing is that post COVID, most places are not even asking for a GRE anymore. So be sure to look at the course pages to see whether they're asking for the GRE scores. So some places had GRE optional, and some places were just not accepting the score at all. So make sure you check that. And usually, a score over 320 for GRE is considered a good score. And from what I've heard from seniors, usually like an exceptionally good GRE score definitely helps your application. But if it's above 320, it doesn't really, they don't really go into the detail that it was 325 and it was not 326, or
Mhm.
like it was, the points don't matter that much. Uh, they just want to make sure that you're in the uh, top bracket of the GRE applicants.
Yeah. Okay. Moving to another thing that you mentioned while preparing for the grad school applications. Now, about the statement of purpose, which is also called the SOP. When should one start preparing? And do you have any specific advice about what one should include in your SOPs versus what one should not include?
So I think it also varies person to person, but typically the SOP writing process is a very time-consuming process because you need to come up with multiple drafts and then keep on revising it to reach your final.
Yeah, just before you go ahead, I just mentioned that SOP is like personal history about yourself, where you mention your journey towards why you are doing what you are doing, and basically what was the journey that led you from your projects in undergrad to what you were applying for in grad school. And also you need to mention why that particular grad school, just to give a brief idea of what SOP is, if you'd like to add something to it.
Yeah, so for the SOPs as well, make sure that you read. So each university gives a different prompt for your statement of purpose, and make sure that your statement of purpose answers those questions correctly. So usually it's tell us about yourself and why do you want to take up this course? Why do you want to take up this course at this university? And why do you believe that you're a good fit for this course? So typically your SOP gives an idea of what your academic and also what your journey has been like up to this point and how that has led you towards research. So you would include things like how or why you chose your major, and if there were some extracurricular skills or something that you had taken up in your college which uh, help develop some skills that might be relevant, or and also what your coursework and research experience has been like during your undergraduate. If it also helps if you show that uh, you went up and beyond what was required for your course and voluntarily took up research internships or took up additional research projects, and how on what basis you chose them, how they led you to why you want to take up the postgraduate course that you're going for. So I would recommend that you should start coming up with a basic draft of your SOP early, like say in August. And I think what really helps is looking at SOPs from your seniors or some other people who have already gotten into good places, because you can get good pointers on how to structure your SOP. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also an issue that if you're not at a place where you are in touch with people who have got into some top colleges, there's no ease. These things are not easily accessible. So
I agree.
yeah, maybe I'll try
I was
to
fortunate that I had.
Yeah, maybe I'll also try to collect some SOPs from different people and have them in some link. So moving to the next topic, which is the letters of recommendations or the LORs. So how many LORs are required to apply for biology, bioengineering, and etc. related grad school applications? And I think that it's a very common question that who should you be asking your LOR from? What did you say on that?
So typically, especially schools in the US ask for 3 recommendations, and in the Europe they so there are 2 required, and you can also give up to 3 recommendations. So who your recommender should be someone who you have worked with in a research or academic space. So it could be people you have done research internships with, you have done research projects with, and if you don't have 3 professors who you have worked with in these settings, it can also be a course instructor from a course that you really enjoyed and really did well in, and maybe put in some extra effort, that on the basis of which the professor can say that yes, this person is suitable for whatever course you're applying for. So look for people who have experience working with you, and you have proven too that you are a good researcher and who might recommend you for the position well.
Mhm. So I guess the high priority thing is that the person should know you well and have they should have a good idea about your research capabilities, not just your
Yes,
coursework. Yeah.
yes. I understand that for many people, it's possible to get two research related recommendations, but it is okay if the third one is academic.
Mhm. So you mentioned that you are joining a PhD program in bioengineering in Imperial College. So could you explain if there is anything different from the general structure that we just talked about in the application portal? And
So
yeah.
so the process for application that I discussed previously was mostly for the US. The application process in the UK is slightly different. Here, typically, you write to professors that you are interested in working with first, and then uh, they tell you whether you should apply to a certain program or not. So I had applied to Imperial College London and also University College London, where I was in communication with two or three professors. And finally, I went with the Imperial College London Bioengineering PhD. So the process was first you would write to the professor, and if they like your application, you'll be invited for certain interviews. First, it is just with the professor to understand whether what your background is like and whether you be a good fit with his or her lab. And then in my case, they recommended how to apply for the PhD program. Another thing to note is that in the UK, the PhD are not automatically funded, unlike the PhD programs in the US. So you also have to find the sources for your funding. Like, it is possible to self-fund, but it was very clear for me that I won't be self-funding my PhD. So you have to identify what can be possible scholarships that you can apply for, and apply for them timely.
So
Um,
are there scholarships specific to the college you're applying to, or are they
so
general
there
for
are
anywhere in
so there
UK?
are all kinds of scholarships available. There are certain scholarships which are offered by the Indian government for PhD students in the rest of the world. So I would recommend exploring those as well. But they have certain criteria that you should be well aware of before applying to. And there are also scholarships offered by the university for PhD students, but they are extremely competitive because the scholarships offered for international students are relatively fewer than those offered for UK students, which is expected everywhere.
Mhm. Oh, so where can one find this list of scholarships? Is it on the college you're applying to, on their website, or is there a general link?
Um, so you can find the scholarships offered by the university on their website, but for the others, you'll have to just spend some time on Google and just looking up scholarships offered by especially if you're looking for the ones offered by the Indian government.
Mhm. Okay. And is there anything you have to say about the procedure for the applying for the scholarships? Is it the same as applying for the grad school?
So I had applied for uh, scholarships which were offered by the university in both cases, and so for them, uh, mostly it was a part of my PhD application as well. Sorry, it was a part of my PhD application only. So I just had to additionally mention that I want to be considered for these scholarships.
Mhm.
And for the scholarships at University College London, I had to give separate applications for uh, the scholarship award. So I think it just varies university to university, course to course, scholarship to scholarship, what the procedure is going to be like. So it just explore the pages uh,
Mhm.
about these on the university websites.
And the timeline for applying for the scholarships is similar to the
Uh,
timeline for
it
the
that
grad school.
varies
Okay.
a lot. So, for example, the deadlines for some of the Indian scholarships are in October. Uh, some of the scholarships are given out year round. There are some which end in January, there are some which end in March. So it just varies a lot. So trying to uh, research these options early on is the best bet.
So, is there any specific advice that you got from a professor regarding what your SOP or your CV or any other part of your application portal should look like?
So I had my SOP and my CV reviewed by a professor, and he gave me certain tips on how to improve both of these. So I'll start with the SOP. So the most important thing is that there is a logical flow in your SOP, and that uh, it just reads well, and uh, so it's very well sequential, and like any question that you would have at a certain place is answered right in the next section of your SOP. It should also clearly mention what your research journey has been like, and make sure to for every experience that you add, make sure to add how, like, what did you what were your learnings, or what was the take home message from that particular opportunity. The next thing would be to highlight everything that makes you stand out from the pool of applicants for your specific degree, be it some extracurricular activity, be it some additional qualification that you worked on, or just anything and everything. Uh, Maybe some internship or some skill that you learned in a certain internship which can be useful in your degree. So make sure to highlight uh, those things which make you stand out. It is okay and to bold certain things in your SOP, and but be sure not to over
Mm.
highlight, like don't make everything bold. Use that carefully. uh, yeah, I think the main focus should be emphasizing why you're a good fit and why you are better than the rest of the applicants. For the CV, uh, so the important thing is that you have to explain an entire uh, project in like 2 or 3 bullet points to be very sure that those phrases read well and they are conveying the meaning that you want them to convey. uh, Again, you can highlight certain things by making them bold, but don't overdo it. uh, so there was certain advice that I had always gotten from my seniors at my university, that to make your CV aesthetically pleasing, each point should start at the same place and end at the same place. Uh, what I learned from talking to the professor was that these things don't matter that much, uh,
Okay.
but just try. Uh, so whoever will be reviewing your CV will not want to spend time reading each section very well. So just one read should convey what you are trying to convey. Use specific, like the people who will be reading your CV will have some background to the field that you're applying to. So it is okay to use certain phrases which are specific to your field without having to explain too much.
Mhm.
Uh, Again, look for, if possible, look at CVs from your seniors to identify what the structure should be like and what the order of the sections should be and stuff like that.
And I think it's also important for both CV and SOP that you um, have it revised or have it like reviewed by
Hmm.
seniors or professors, and then
Yes,
undergo multiple revisions.
that is
I
very
think yeah,
helpful
yeah, you'll
because
find that
every
yeah,
person who reviews gives at least a point that you can improve on in
mhm,
your.
yeah. I think both CV and especially SOP are like things that um, we normally don't read about or learn about during our entire
Mhm.
undergrad, and then uh, we are not super aware of what should be there or what reads well. So it's very important, I think, to have it reviewed.
It also helps to get it reviewed by someone who's not from your field, because it also helps you understand how meaningful it is to someone who's not completely aware of what your project exactly was.
Okay. Also, there's this common question that if one's grades are not good, or if one doesn't have enough decent projects or papers, or the GRE scores are not good, or they don't have good LORs, should they be worried if a few of these things are bad, or like uh, in top institutes, do they look for uh, one of these things more than any other, or how is it?
Uh, so I can only answer this question as an applicant, and
Yeah.
from what I've seen from my friends and my seniors' experience. Uh, Typically, uh, I think each of these individually, I think none of these individually matter the most, but it is a balance of all of these. Uh, like it's okay if you don't have the best grades in your university. If you have some research experience to show, or if you have experience in anything else to show that you were spending the time on something else parallelly.
Mhm.
Uh, recommendations are very important part of your application, because that is someone who is vouching for you, and that has a very significant impact uh, on your application. And GRE scores, as I have mentioned previously, it's it's like a qualifying criteria, but it does not. It should not hold you back typically if you have a decent GRE score. Uh, what else?
Yeah, I think those are
Mhm.
like also do they give do you think in your field they give special preference if you have a published paper?
Uh, I think publications always help. Like if there are two applicants with everything else the same, the panel would definitely give preference to someone with publications because they have research that was published, which makes sense. So if possible, uh, yeah, you should put in that extra effort to get published before applying.
Mhm. Like, is that something common in your department, or um,
From what I've seen, people usually do have publications, but I've also seen people with very few publications working. Like I know of people with only one publication.
okay. Is it like one low number for bio, or
Uh,
like,
so
for example,
it's
I know that
I
in
think
theoretical physics having one published paper is a big thing.
yeah. So I think publications are more common in biology than in physics.
Mhm.
Uh, Especially conference papers could be relatively
Okay,
easier to.
okay. So one should work towards having a conference or journal paper in their undergrad.
Mhm.
uh, while looking for research groups and people you would be applying to, do you think that emailing the professors help, or should one email at all, or it doesn't matter?
So uh, again, that varies a lot from university to university. Uh, I think you'll find this information in the FAQ section of your PhD program that you're interested in. Some universities recommend writing to professors beforehand, whereas some say that you should not contact them at all. And we'll be connecting you to the professors after the if you reach to the interview stage. So I think that would be the best place to identify what your whether or not you should contact them. Uh, Again, in the UK, the process is different. So uh, in so in UK you are supposed to write to the professors first, and only then uh, you start with the application process. uh, I'd also applied to ETH Zurich. There as well, it was recommended not to write to them beforehand, so just read the FAQ sections of the places that you're applying to, and you'll find uh, what to do.
There's also this doubt among students, especially those who are doing a 3-year BSc program, that whether they can apply, or also for people who are doing 4-year BS. They want to know if doing a master's would help their application.
So typically, especially in the US, most colleges have a 4-year undergraduate requirement for their postgraduate courses, both masters and PhD. So if you have taken up a 3-year course, then I would definitely recommend looking very carefully at what their undergraduate requirement is, because from what I know, very few places offer uh, uh, degree programs for undergraduates of 3 years. Um, I know of people who did a 1-year master's course in India itself, just to ensure that they have the 4-year undergraduate before applying. Then in the UK, some places, especially for a PhD, ask for a master's course as well. So they ask for a 5-year requirement. But there are also master's plus PhD combined courses available at certain universities. So you can apply after a 4-year BTech for those courses. So again, this is something that will vary completely from university to university. So just make sure to read this up before applying.
Also, was there anything else in your applications that was asked for? Like I know some universities ask for diversity statement, etc.
Yeah, some places ask for a diversity statement as well. So that would usually talk about how you are different and what your personal journey has been like, and how that has been different from a typical applicant to the program. So just
Yeah, like
highlight
some personal struggle or a minority.
that is the place where you mention things like these, some personal hurdles that you had to cross to get to the place that you are. And like it is totally up to you whether or not you wish to talk about this, because it will be read by a panel. And usually they also give you instructions on uh, how personal you should go into this, because at some places these are read anonymously, and at some places they mention that this will be read by everyone.
Okay. Also, how was your interview experiences like in this grad school process?
So the interviews varied a lot from universities to university. In the UK, especially, my interviews were mostly very, very focused on my research up till now and what the research project would be like. And it was pretty much focused on the how I'm a good fit for the project and how I qualify. I also gave some interviews uh, with some professors at Caltech, and I found that to be much more informal, and uh, it was less structured. So I think you should know how to drive the conversation towards your research.
Are there some standard questions that one should prepare for? As you said, one should be about being able to present your research in a few minutes. Is there something else that?
So again, it varies completely from for each interview. Like at certain interviews, I was told to prepare a presentation talking about my previous experience, talking about one specific research experience that of my choice, and talking about why I would be a good fit for the project, because I already knew the project that I was applying for. At other places, there wasn't any prompt as such, and so I was supposed to ask the questions in the interview, and I was supposed to guide the conversation towards why I should be selected. So while there is I think you'll find many articles on the internet on how to prepare for a PhD interview. So while reading those can give you certain questions that might come in handy. I think you just have to be quick on your feet and just be able to gauge the situation and answer accordingly.
Mm. I think it's also, as you said, very university specific. So it's good to probably talk to someone in the same department about what questions were asked in their year. For
Yes,
example, I know some
definitely.
places are, and like for example at Caltech Astrophysics, they used to even give out the list of questions they would be asking beforehand. So yeah, it's something that's very specific, I think, to the department.
Getting into one. Also, the whole process of
Mhm.
waiting for an acceptance, rejection, it can be pretty stressful. Do you have any advice on how to handle that?
Uh, so the thing is that even if you do everything right, there are so many factors which are out of your control completely, which can affect whether or not you get an offer. So uh, personally, I would advise that you should always have a backup plan in case you don't get an offer at the moment. It can like completely vary based on what you want, what you would like to do. Uh, I had a placement offer uh, just in case that I did not get a PhD offer this year. You can also consider getting an RA-ship and if possible, and then applying next year. But that completely depends on what you would, what your plan of action would be. But I would definitely
Just
recommend
to clarify,
having.
like RA-ship is research assistant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I would just recommend that uh, always have a backup plan in case it doesn't work out, because it's a very very competitive process and there are people from all over the world applying for very limited positions. So
Yeah, I guess the whole
yeah.
selection procedure is also very subjective. So
Mhm.
uh,
It
yeah,
depends a lot on luck as well.
yeah, of course you need to prepare yourself, and luck would only help if you're like 100% well prepared. But
Mhm.
even if you're 100% well prepared, luck plays a big role. So
Yeah.
don't be disheartened. Yeah. Any final words?
uh, Best of luck to everyone who's considering applying. Have a happy application process. ब्लूपर्स डाल दियो अपनी हैट गिर गई थी www.magoosh.com/gre/sample
अभी
test.
सही है.
हाँ मैं अपने देख रही थी,
तेरा तो पावन.
इसको ज्यादा मिलता है, देखते हैं.
अच्छा हाँ. स्पॉन्सर करना चाहिए ना. हाँ.
बेचना चाहते तो ये वीडियो.
ओह मेरा है.
हाँ पर हैट क्यों पहन के बैठे हो? हैट के नीचे कितना दर्द.
मैं यही क्लिप करके डाल दूंगा. पानी पी.
ये पता है मेरे को इंटरव्यू के टाइम पे भी लगता है, ऐसे बोल देते ना कि मतलब इट्स ओके टेक योर टाइम वाला. तो मतलब मैं जब बोल रही थी ना कैन आई टेक अ मिनट टू थिंक अबाउट दिस,
हाँ पर
फिर उसके बाद ना
सोचना.
उसके बाद मेरे दिमाग में शुरू होता है मिनट ले लिया सोचना शुरू कर फिर एक सेकंड लगता है उसको देखो नहीं सोचना.